Tell you one about an old friend of mine. He's not with us anymore. Donald Ray Bartlett. Everybody called him Bud Bartlett. Great friend of mine. We worked together for many years. But we had both been retired several years when I heard that he had passed on. Bud lived in Jackson County. His dad was Cap Bartlett. He was a mule trader. He raised mules and bought and sold mules. And people would come a lot of times. They lived up in the northern end of Jackson County, and it wasn't really all that far to the Kentucky line. And some of the Kentucky farmers would come down there and buy mules from Cap Bartlett. Bud was a little boy at the time. I don't know, 10, 11 years old, something like that. But he had a real hankering to go to Kentucky. He thought it had to be something, magical about going to Kentucky. And he told Cap that he'd like to go to Kentucky sometime. And Cap told him, said, I can take you up there someday. Oh, you'll never know when we cross the state line unless I tell you. It looks just the same as Tennessee. No, he wanted to go to Kentucky. He really wanted to go. So one day, two men come and buy a pair of young mules that Cap has raised, and they buy them, and they're driving a big straight truck, and they load the mules into the truck. Well, Bud has got this all figured out. They go in on the porch to have some lemonade and cookies with Cap before they leave out on their trip back to Kentucky. Bud gets over in the truck, in the bed of the truck, and gets up between the two mules where he can't be seen from either side. And he's going to Kentucky. Well, they hit the road. Bud's very uncomfortable back there, and it's hot standing between those two mules. And every now and then they kind of bump together. Only Bud's in there too. But he doesn't want the men to know he's back there as long as they're close enough to take him back home. Well, they ride and they ride and they ride, and they stop at this country store, and it has gas pumps. They stop to get gas in their truck, and they go in and get something to eat. Well, Bud's hungry, but he doesn't have any money with him. He hadn't thought about taking any money with him. He decides that he needs to see if they're in Kentucky or not, and he gets out of the truck, and he gets to looking around there, and he sees on the sign on the store that they are in Kentucky. So he figures he's been to Kentucky. It might be a good time to head back home. So he knows just to follow the road back the way he came. He walks and he walks and he walks. And he thinks, somebody will give me a ride. No. Very few cars passed, and they passed. They didn't stop. And Bud walks and he walks. And somewhere he made a wrong turn, probably, but he came up out in a rural area. And the day wore on, and Bud was very tired, and he had to sit down and rest fairly often. As the day wore on, he rested oftener. He hadn't had anything to drink all day. He was thirsty, hungry, and very tired. He kept walking, and he kept walking, and it began to get dark. Well, there was no houses on this road he was on, but here's a side road that looked pretty good size. So he thinks, I'll go out this side road ways. Maybe there'll be some houses. Maybe somebody will give me something to eat. Well, this road didn't go very far. It just made a loop. It was going to come back into the road he had been on. There was one house on it. Pretty good sized house. 2-story house. But it was abandoned. It was old. Well, it's beginning to get dark. So Bud thinks to himself, I need to get in somewhere for the night. So this is probably as good a chance as I'm going to get right here. He goes in the house. It's not too bad a shape, and there's an old couch there. It don't look too clean, but it's not too dirty either. So Bud thinks this. He sits down on the couch. It doesn't completely fall down with him. He sits a while and it gets dark outside. Bud lays down on the couch to try to get some sleep. Oh, he's hungry and oh, he's thirsty. But he's trying to sleep. Sometime in the night, probably along about midnight, he hears something. It wakes him. It's a boom, boom, boom. And it seems to be coming from up overhead. And it dawns on him then, I should have gone up the stairs and checked out the upstairs while it was still daylight, because we don't have any light now. Well, about that time, it sounds like a child had dropped a basketball and it came down the steps. Boom, 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 getting faster as it came. Boom, 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 boom. Well, there's enough moonlight outside that he could see in the hall. And what looks like a human head rolls out into the hallway there where he could see it there at the foot of the stairs. He hears footsteps on the stairs. Boom, 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 boom. A very tall man without a head comes walking over, picks up the head, puts it here in the crook of his arm so it's facing Bud, and they come on in the room where Bud is. And the head is doing the talking. And the head says, oh, I didn't know we had visitors. How are you, sir? Well, you can imagine about how Bud felt. He panicked. He didn't know what to do. There was no window. The glass was gone out of it, right at the end of the couch. He wasn't sure what was out there, but he took a chance. He bailed out of that window and he run like lightning. Down the road he went. Something brushed him. He glanced over his shoulder. The headless man was running right along beside of him. The head said, you know, this is a good night for running, isn't it? I am enjoying myself. Bud turned on steam then. I mean, he picked up the gas. He went to the high test and all this stuff. He picked up the pace. He began to move faster and faster. The headless man passed him, and the head turned around and looked back and said, we're sure having a good time tonight, aren't we? Well, Bud wasn't having a good time. He ran till he couldn't run anymore, and he saw a log there, and he sat down on that log, trying to get his breath. The headless man sat down beside of him. The head was just smiling. You sure are a good runner for such a young man. You may run, but you'll never outrun us. Bud said, that's what you think. And up and away he went. Well, as he went on down the road, he could hear heavy footsteps behind him. They weren't really behind him, they were just almost touching him. As he was running, a jackrabbit jumped up and ran. He passed that jackrabbit. He said, get out of the way, rabbit. There's somebody in the lead that can run. Faster he went, the faster the headless man went. If you're ever out at night and something brushes you on the leg, and you don't really see anything, but something brushes you to go by. It may be Bud still trying to outrun that Headless Man. We don't know what happened to him. Thank you.